Good evening and welcome to Northbeat. I'm Shannon Scott. We begin tonight in the Northwest Territories, where environment and industry are coming head-to-head in a regulatory process before the Sahtu Land and Water Board. It centers on Imperial Oil, its ability to continue to operate in Norman Wells NWT, and for how long. Natalie Pressman has more.
Leaders in the Sahtu are divided on their positions on Imperial Oil's application to renew its water license. Imperial Oil's current license expires on May 3rd, and it's applying to extend that by 3 years. A committee of leaders in Fort Hope says it doesn't trust Imperial Oil's Norman Wells operation. The Casho-Gotine Committee presented at a public hearing this week to oppose Imperial's application. They say they're worried about the impacts of being downstream.
We're fighting for, clean drinking water. That's one of our inherent rights, is clean drinking water. To protect the land, to make sure that we have healthy fish in the Mackenzie River.
Imperial says without the 3-year renewal, it's at risk of a sudden shutdown that would put its infrastructure, the environment, and the region's economy at risk, and other leaders are standing behind Imperial. Danny McNeely is the MLA for the Sahtu. He says the extension would help Imperial properly scale down its operations. Norman Wells Mayor Frank Pope has also spoken in support of Imperial. He says their contributions to the town is vital for their economy. The Casho-Gotine Committee has until February 26th to make its closing arguments. Imperial Oil will make its closing arguments by March 4th. The Sahtu Land and Water Board will then make recommendations to Canada's Northern Affairs Minister. Natalie Pressman, CBC News, Yellowknife.
People in the North have long faced high food prices, and the Federal Nutrition North program is supposed to offset those high costs. Now, a proposed class action lawsuit is alleging the full subsidy isn't being passed on. The lawsuit is directed at the Northwest Company, which runs Northern grocery stores. JFK Law in Vancouver has filed the lawsuit with the Manitoba Court of King's Bench. If it goes ahead, the lawsuit would aim to get compensation for Northerners.
The allegation in this claim is that the Northwest Company has not been doing that entirely, that they've been keeping some of the subsidy as profit.
Dixon says a lawsuit would require the Northwest Company to disclose its profits. The lawsuit hasn't yet been certified. CBC reached out to the Northwest Company for comment, but we haven't heard back. A woman facing dangerous driving charges after a fatal crash in 2022 has testified in Northwest Territories Supreme Court. Hannah Lafferty is charged in connection with the death of 30-year-old Jermaine Mantla. The CBC's Nadir Hashmi was in court and spoke with the victim's mother.
I have lost my son 3 years ago. I have lost my baby, my last son, Jermaine Mantla.
Celine Mantla says it has been a difficult time for her since April 2022, when Jermaine passed away after a fatal crash near Bison Hill Apartments, where they lived with his daughter. She recalls that on that night, Jermaine called her while she was at work.
My son had called me that night, and then he said, "Mom, are you working?" He said, "Yeah."
That was the last time Celine spoke to him. Celine says she stayed up until 4 a.m., but Jermaine didn't come home. The next morning, she says the RCMP showed up at her door and told her Jermaine had been hit by a vehicle.
So I kneeled down and I cried and I cried, like, "My son, your son got hit by a vehicle." He said, no, it can't happen. I said.
Jermaine was medevac to Edmonton and was in coma. Celine says he later died from his head injuries.
I have lost 3 of my kids already. My 2 daughters and my son my only last son that I have, he had passed away.
Celine says he left behind 2 daughters. She remembers the good times she had with Jermaine.
He's a good kid. He's always, they always play with their sisters and they get along, they play. They always play outside and in the snow. And
after Jermaine passed away, Celine says she underwent trauma treatment for 6 months. Now, she says taking care of her 4 grandkids gives her strength.
And I'm glad that I'm keeping my grandkids, and that's really given me happiness when I read my grandkids.
Celine says it has been a difficult time for her to sit through the trial since Monday. Hannah Lafferty is on trial for dangerous driving causing death near Bison Hills. She testified that she was waiting in a truck while her partner Austin Moore visited his ex, Aikida Lafferty. Hannah said she knew Aikida as both were from the same community of Betchikon. When Aikida approached the truck with clenched fists, Hannah saw Moore waving her to leave. With an injured arm, Hannah said she put the truck in drive to avoid a fight. As she moved, Aikida opened the driver's door and then grabbed a handle, holding on as the truck gained speed. Hannah said she didn't see anyone else in the parking lot, but suddenly felt a collision as the vehicle swerved. She stopped and Aikida punched her twice before walking away. She later saw Moore standing beside Jermaine Mantla's body. During cross-examination, the Crown questioned whether Hannah's swerving could have seriously killed or injured Aikida. She denied this, saying she only tried to shake Aikida off and wasn't thinking much about her driving. The trial continues Monday with closing arguments. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Yukon's only dedicated abortion clinic is losing its current space. The Opal Clinic is currently embedded with the obstetrics, gynecology, and sexual health clinics at the Whitehorse General Hospital. Now, both of those clinics are moving to a new downtown location. But Opal wants to stay at the hospital so it has access to an ultrasound machine and better security. The hospital has offered a new space, but doctors say it's too small.
It's disappointing. This is something that we had a fair bit of notice about, and the proposed solution right now would severely limit the care we could provide. And I feel like Yukoners deserve better than that.
The clinic has to move fast. It needs to find a new space by the end of March. As tensions rise between Canada and the United States over Arctic sovereignty, Nunavut Premier PJ Akiagok faces mounting pressure. There are multiple infrastructure projects currently on the go in the territory, and MLAs have questions about them. TJ Deere has that story.
After Nunavut's premier talked about nation-building projects on CBC Radio's The Current, two territorial MLAs had questions about ones in their ridings. On the first day of the Nunavut Legislative Assembly's latest session, Ukumyut MLA Mary Kalikti had questions about the proposed deep-sea port in Qikiqtarjuaq. Its proposed cost has increased to $300 million, and Kalikti wanted information about who would fund it.
Can the minister indicate what commitments he has received from the federal government, the Qikiqtarjuaq Inuit Association, and other partners to obtain the additional funding?
Economic Development and Transportation Minister David Akiagok.
We haven't seen any indication yet from the federal government as to what they will decide, but right now the federal government is under a prorogue, and if they're going to be bringing out any money, then the Minister of Finance has to come up with the money.
Immediately after Kilikti, Kugluktuk MLA Bobby Anaviluk brought up the Grays Bay Road and Port project. He spoke about the Kugluktuk Hunters and Trappers organization not supporting the project as it stands. The HTO says it wouldn't benefit local communities and it would impact a caribou herd that's been labeled as endangered.
It is very important that organizations such as the Kugluktuk Hunters and Trappers organization are able to fully participate in the Nunavut Impact Review Board's consideration of the project.
When asked what resources would be made available to the HTO as well as the hamlet, the minister said he encourages the HTO to pursue funding from the NERB and contact the government as well. Today, Iqaluit Manarhayak MLA Adam Ahiak Lightstone asked the premier about the military's presence in the territory. Speaking with reporters afterwards, he said along with a permanent base, a new Inuit regiment would help the country and Nunavummiut.
So many of our youth that turn 18 do inevitably age in to income support, given the lack of employment opportunities and training opportunities in our communities, which is why I think it's very important to seize the opportunity and put forward that request for a Nunavut regiment.
While Arctic sovereignty is still expected to be discussed in the coming days, the territory's operating budget is set to be tabled on Monday. TJ Deere, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Well, PJ Akiagok is in Nunavut during the sitting of the Legislative Assembly. Two of Canada's other premiers are back in Washington, trying to pitch their anti-tariff message. They're meeting with American governors on the sidelines of their annual summit in the U.S. Capitol. And while there is plenty of opposition to tariffs among the governors, many others are firmly on side with Donald Trump. The CBC's Katie Simpson reports.
Ford and Houston.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston spent their day working meeting rooms at a downtown Washington hotel, trying to convince American governors of all political stripes to speak up and push back against tariffs.
What's shocking to me is how misinformed a lot of elected officials down here, how critical Canada plays in their economy and their critical minerals and their energy in manufacturing is aluminum and nickel and potash and uranium. So when we tell them all this, they're like, wow, we didn't realize this.
I believe we'll get through this. This is a relationship that has survived a couple hundred years, depressions, wars, all kinds of highs and lows in the relationship. And I believe we'll get through this, and we'll just do everything we can to make sure we get through it faster.
This is the second trip to DC in a month for both premiers. Neither think a breakthrough moment is imminent, but they defended their plan to keep trying to convince as many people as they can that tariffs will not just hurt the Canadian economy, but the American economy too. In speaking with governors at this conference, we found there was mixed reaction to tariffs. While some Republicans supported Donald Trump's plan, some Democrats were opposed.
We're working through all of it, and the White House wants to reset the deck and wants to bring manufacturing back home, and I think that's a fantastic idea.
It's not good. I like Canada. It's my favorite 51st state, and we bring down, that's a joke, by the way.
I know, the thing is, in Canada, that's not going to go over as a joke.
Okay, leave that outside. But we bring down hydro, we bring down energy. The idea of putting a 20% tariff on that is terrible.
Canada becoming the 51st state really seemed to be a punchline, as you just heard, even from Democrats. The outrage among Canadians not necessarily resonating with some of these state leaders. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Forced and coerced sterilization of Indigenous people is still happening. The Survivors Circle for Reproductive Justice has supports available for Indigenous survivors. Join the National Registry and access up to $70,000 in healing support funds for individuals, families, and communities. The deadline to apply is March 31st. If you or someone you know has experienced forced and coerced sterilization, please call 1-877-386-0750 or visit reproductivejusticesurvivors.ca for more information.
The Kanuipita National Inuit Health Survey team is going to every community in Nunavut, speaking to Inuit about their health and wellness. And every answer will help us as Inuit determine our own priorities for a healthier future. Together, we will answer the question, Kanuipita, how are we? Find out when we're coming to your community. Learn more at qnihs.ca.
Oh, he grew up around here. Oh, isn't this nice?
Oh, who made this?
Studio in Montreal.
And this?
It's a collectible.
You're disgusting.
The first ever Joel Tetso Memorial Hockey Tournament is set to take place next month in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. It will bring together teams from across the region, including from Tetso's home community of Delaunay. Carla Ulrich has the details for us.
A new hockey tournament is coming to Fort Smith next month as part of the annual Fort Smith Frolics. The Joel Tetso Memorial Hockey Tournament will run from March 14th to the 16th. It will feature two divisions, Old Timers for players 35 and up and Rec for those 16 and older. Joel Tetso, a Fort Smith resident, lost his life in a plane crash in the community in January 2024. His wife Bev Chapelski says the tournament is a tribute to her husband, whose love for the sport shaped his friendships, family, and community.
Throughout my entire knowing of Joel, hockey was a very common theme. Also during COVID, when there was no NHL games, he would find a game on YouTube. Like we'd watch old playoff games from 92 or whatever, and always kind of had hockey going on in the house.
Delaney is sending 2 teams to the tournament, the Delaney Braves and the Delaney Chiefs. For Aaron McKenzo, who grew up playing hockey with Tetso, this tournament is very special.
We're born and raised in Delaney, and we played hockey all our lives together. And I'm just going to miss the memories we had together, the hockey, the laughs, especially the outdoor stuff.
McKenzo says playing in honor of Tetso's memory was an easy decision. He says the Braves are ready to play and hoping to bring home a win for their friend. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
Well, fans across Canada are still reveling in the victory over the U.S. at the Four Nations face-off last night. With political tensions simmering between the two countries, it's a win that's seen as bigger than what just happened on the ice. Sarah Levitt reports.
From sea to sea to sea and even abroad, Canadians are basking in the glow of an epic win at the Four Nations Cup.
It's a big thing. It's like we won the world.
One of the best experiences of my life. Very proud to be Canadian right now.
I was really happy.
Like, you can't lose to the U.S., right? So it was the best moment.
Canada's success in hockey is renowned, but the United States has become a powerhouse of its own.
That's going to do it. A hard-fought Team USA victory.
They had beaten Canada 3-1 in their first meeting of the tournament, so Thursday night's game had an edge. Scrappy, tense, with an overtime close, making the ultimate win even better.
In that room is proud to be a Canadian. And yeah, did we need a win? Not only like our team, but Canada needed a win.
A sentiment felt by many after a month filled with Donald Trump's tariff threats and comments about Canada as the 51st state.
You're not just playing for the maple leaf on the front of you anymore. You're playing for the whole country, and to kind of show him, like, look, we're proud. This is our game. Leave us alone.
It's a pivotal time to show our force, a great nation.
I don't know. It's really nice to be able to kind of like stick it to the man a little bit. Like, I don't know if I can say that.
This is the Canada-U.S. stuff that has been going on over the last month and a half. It was great to see for the country, for the players. You can't write a better script.
A script that even had Canada's political leaders united, perhaps showing sport can bring people together, for a moment at least. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
While many Canadians have been glued to that Four Nations hockey tournament, in Calgary, some were watching a completely different international competition. As Aaron Collins shows us, the Alberta City is currently playing host to the very first World Youth Open dodgeball tournament.
On this Calgary court, a global first. Youth teams from around the world gathered to play dodgeball, a sport once limited to school gyms and playgrounds exploding in popularity. This tournament organized by the World Dodgeball Federation, drawing teams from around the world. What's so fun about dodgeball?
Like if you just imagine you don't like someone, you can just pretend that person is the person you don't like, so you can just hit them, and then you get the feeling of hitting the person you don't like.
The sport played by nearly 100 million people worldwide in 70 countries. Do you think maybe one day dodgeball could be in the Olympics?
I think, yeah, it's going to be an Olympic game. Yeah, for sure.
And you can play for Mexico?
I think, yeah.
Dodgeball, long a hit in popular culture.
I'm really sorry, are you all right?
Why would you hit a girl? Why?
Now making inroads as a legitimate sport. One played with familiar rules, but two kinds of balls, cloth and foam. All right, this is a foam dodgeball. There's also cloth ones. What's the difference?
Yeah, so the foam dodgeballs are a little less dense. They're spongier, where the cloth ones are air-filled with a cloth texture, and they're bouncier.
Yeah. Both of them sting, though, I'd say.
Yes, you get them thrown hard enough, and you'll feel both of them, yes, absolutely.
Canada, a world power in the foam ball category, winning the women's and mixed competitions at the World Championships this summer. Youth teams from across Canada competing here in Calgary in under 12, 15, and 18 divisions. Excited to be representing their country, playing a sport they love.
different people bring different things, where for me, I'm more of a thrower and a catcher, but a lot of people are really good at dodging, and that's a really major thing that you want to get into.
This tournament wraps up Saturday. Canada's teams hoping to dodge, dip, and dive their way onto the podium. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, this is Yukon's rendezvous weekend in Whitehorse. There will be lots of feathers, dancing, and activities. Virginie Anne's dropped by Shipyards Park earlier today, where the festival is already well underway.
How do you explain what's rendezvous to someone who's never been to the Yukon?
I would explain it as our fun way to get the cabin fever blues out. We're right in our depression of seasonal depression. We get out and we have fun and we just do some crazy fun things.
Have a sit. Do singing. Ready?
Not the same tree.
It's a bunch of rootin' tootin' winter activities from a people who have a rootin' tootin' alternative history, or wild history, I guess.
What's your favorite thing about it?
It's just seeing people outside in cold February.
Well, Yellowknifers are getting ready for that city's iconic festival. Every March, the Snow Kings Winter Festival brings dance, theater, music, and more to the city of Yellowknife. It all begins with the construction of a glittering palace made of snow. CBC caught up with the Snow Kings crew as they prepare for the festival's 30th year.
You know, we're just about a week out from our opening day at the Snow Castle. This is number 30. And yeah, as you'll see, we'll take a walk, and there's a lot of activity happening today, lots going on. Let's go, follow me. Another nice feature that you're gonna see a lot of repeated around the site, it's not the first time we've done ice carvings. We've done ice carvings before. This is the first time we're trying to install gargoyle heads. We're calling them gargoyle heads into our walls. And this is the mezzanine. So people can come up here and they can watch the show. I don't know, I guess you could probably get like 60 people up here. And yeah, and of course the roof will be covered with a tarp. There's a little bit of heat in here. But yeah, let's keep moving. Over here we got Joe Snow working on the slides. It's gonna be a triple slide this year. Then we got over there, we got Avalanche Kid and Hefe Fret. Everyone gets snow names around here. Occasional Light Snow here is helping out today, and he's carving out. This is our ticket booth here, and he's just taking out the door, the window, you know, roughing it out. So you see the Bobcat over there? It's got a big snowblower attachment on the front. And what he's doing, he's chewing up the snow. And I don't know, it does something chemically, you know what I mean? On a molecular level where it breaks apart the snow. And then when it gets poured, then it solidifies overnight. And we call it snowcrete. And then we leave it overnight. The next day we pop those walls and we got ourselves some solid pieces. A carver who's come from all the way from PEI to help us out this year. And he's doing some beautiful work. He carves internationally and he's a pro, and we're happy to have him. And yeah, so he's making this big old piece over here. January 1st to February 28th this year is the build season. And then festival starts on March 1st, runs until I believe March 28th. But yeah, it opens on a Saturday this year. But yeah, so we spend 2 months building. The construction happens 7 days a week. We don't miss a day. And then it becomes a month-long festival. We get 4 weekends out of it. People love it.
Above zero in Whitehorse this weekend for Rendezvous. Not bad at all to be out there enjoying all of those activities. Well, that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always visit our website, cbc.ca/north. Thank you so much for joining us. As we leave you on this Friday evening, we're going to end on this footage from Shane Nigo. This is in Baker Lake, where the community had a celebration parade last night after Canada beat the United States in the Four Nations face-off. I think everyone across the country was very excited about that win for that team. I'm Shannon Scott. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again on Monday.
Stolen vehicle in West Africa.
That is crazy. Jumped in a car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
One good scheme deserves another.
Stay on him.
I feel we may be in for a challenging few days.
Cheers. Cheers.
$12 new records for a penny.
Sounds too good to be true.
It's not a scam. Cancel anytime. It's all in the fine print.
You're going to end up on the hook for a lot more.
You think I'm stupid? I used your name to sign up.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
My dad was a railway porter. It was just about the only job a black man could get. But he had big plans for us. Music would be our ticket out of poverty. I knew we couldn't afford that piano, so I practiced twice as hard.
Nice, Daisy. Okay, Oscar, let's hear it.
Turns out, I wasn't half bad. Then I found jazz, or it found me. It wasn't all easy, though. I faced a lot of hate, but I found my stage. They call me the man with four hands. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see how far this ticket takes me.
From Montreal to Carnegie Hall and far beyond, Oscar Peterson became one of the most recorded and celebrated jazz musicians of all time.